The sea breeze that reached the Red Keep, by way of the Blackwater, carried the stink of tar, old salt, and the faintest hint of rotting fish. On certain mornings it cleansed the castle of the city's noisome vapors, on others it only stirred them, like a cook spooning up the sludge at the bottom of a stew. This dawn it did the latter. Tyrion Lannister tasted the scum of the capital on his tongue long before the shutters of his solar were unbarred. It left him irritable, more irritable than usual, and he stalked the tiles in his bare feet while his squire Podrick fumbled with the buckles of his doublet. King's Landing had always stunk, yet to Tyrion it seemed to stink worse of late. Power, he reflected, possessed an odor no perfume could mask. In the twilight between Baratheon clangor and Lannister order, if you dared call what reigned a kind of order, the city festered. Spiders played at words, mockingbirds fluttered from purse to purse, and ravens shed black feathers over every roof. If the tales shouted in the wine sinks could be believed, the stranger himself wandered flea-bottom in human guise, buying secrets for halfpennies and selling them for souls. Lies, all lies. Yet some lies, he knew, were only truths wearing stolen clothes. He would have given a great deal to know who trafficked in them. Far below his window a hooded figure watched the black hand-gold banners flap upon Maegor's holdfast. The sentries on the walls saw a beggar in patched dun robes. They saw the stick he leaned upon, the stoop of weary shoulders, the tremor in a gloved hand. They saw gray wisps of hair beneath the cowl, and heard the soft wheeze of a chest grown thin with age. They did not see the eyes. The eyes watched everything. They watched the changing of the guard, the banter of sellswards unloading barrels of lamp oil, the two maids gossiping where the Tower of the Hand's shadow kissed the courtyard, and the plump stable-boy hurrying a lame gelding toward the kennels, cursing at every stagger. They measured the spaces between torches, counted the blades on every hip, and weighed the rhythm of the bells pealing for the dawn prayer. And when nothing moved worth noting, the eyes looked to the highest windows and lingered on the one that belonged to the dwarf hand of the king. A shuffle of slippered feet disturbed the solar. Varys slipped through the door, diffident as a breeze, robed in lavender silk. "My lord Hand," he began, "the hour grows late for bed and early for council. Might I prevail upon you to break your fast while we break the realm's problems?" Tyrion grunted. "If the cook has anything stronger than ale, send it up. I mean to face this council sober, but only just. Then, I shall inquire." The eunuch's smile was so gentle, it almost seemed heartfelt. "We convene in the Tower of the Hand, or will his grace honor us by descending? I do not require King Joffrey's wisdom so early in the day," Tyrion said dryly. "If my nephew has sense, he is still abed, dreaming of new cruelties." Varys inclined his shaven head. "Then I shall see the others seated in the small council chamber. Oh, and Grand Maester Pycelle begged me to inform you he woke in the night with a troublesome humoral imbalance. Something to do with flame. He may arrive tardy." "Now, if he arrives at all," Tyrion muttered. It suited him well enough. The old fraud's leech-ridden sermon soured his porridge. Some minutes after the eunuch bowed out, another tap sounded, cunkles of iron ringing on oak. Bronn strode in without waiting leave, all insolent confidence. Tyrion took in the sellsword's leather and mail, the longsword polished to a mirror shine, the dagger with its wolf-tooth grip. Bronn looked ready to cut a path through half the gold cloaks if need be. "New troubles?" Tyrion asked. "No troubles at all." Bronn's grin was wolfish. "But I thought you'd want your shadow close." "My shadow, is it? I feel safer already. Safe as a babe at its mother's teat." Bronn propped himself against a chair, drumming fingers on the hilt of his dagger. "I passed a raid picker on the stairs who swore blind he'd seen ghosts hunting the Red Keep. Looks like everyone's seeing things these days. Ghosts I can bear." Tyrion tightened his sash. "It is the living I mistrust." Pycelle's bedchamber smelled of must and dried rosemary. He lay supine upon a silk pillow, beard splayed like yellow moss, lids fluttering while he dreamed of innocence bygone. A dream of youth, perhaps, or of ladies lost to time. Pycelle's dreams were always scented with regret. The assassin entered without stirring a hinge. The lock yielded to a slender pin no longer than a milk tooth, wielded by fingers that belonged to many men and none. He padded across the woven carpet, eased a cushion aside, and seated himself on the edge of the Grand Maester's mattress. From beneath the folds of his robe he drew a small vial, crystalline, stoppered with black wax. Inside swam a liquid clear as summer dusk. Pycelle's breath rasped in his throat. Flame indeed. The assassin watched the old man's chest rise, fall, stutter, and rise again. A weakening pump. All mortal pumps must fail, yet some could be hurried. He uncorked the vial, slipped it beneath the sagging jowls, and let 3 drops cling to the leathery skin. They soaked through in an instant. Hungry as leeches, Pycelle's eyes flew open, watery and wild. He caught a glimpse of a stranger's face. No, of his own, reflected in eyes calm as winter pools, eyes that changed color even as he beheld them, green to gray to brown. His lungs convulsed. He tried to croak a question, but the muscles of his throat locked tight. The assassin pressed a finger to the old man's lips. "A gift from the many-faced god," he whispered, voice soft as a maiden's sigh. Pycelle died without further sound. When his heart's final tremor ceased, the assassin closed the sunken lids, drew the coverlet neat across the shoulders, and set the vial upon the bedside table beside a cluster of dried rose hips. The wax seal bore no sigil. Though Pycelle had sent ravens for half a century bearing royal words, the last message he received needed none. The corridor beyond was still deserted when the assassin slipped out. 4 turns, 3 flights, 2 guarded doors. He marked each in silence. Where men lingered, he was a bent steward nodding deference. Where women gossiped, a mute scullion carrying greens. Where eyes strayed too long, a forgettable shadow. Inside, a storage alcove, beneath the stair to Megger's kitchens. He paused to breathe the stale air. A rat scurried under a cask. He let it pass. He stripped off the dun robe, revealing a tunic of coarse brown wool, common as ditch water. He smeared dust across his cheeks, rubbed grease into his hair, and exchanged the iron-shod walking stick for a bread knife rusted at the tip. Then he went forth again, emerging as a pantry lad no man would look at twice. So many faces, so many doors. All must open sooner or later. The small council chamber boasted a long carved weirwood table polished to ghostly sheen, its inlaid tracery of red veins snaking through the pale grain like frozen blood. Tyrion arrived on Podrick's heels and dragged a cushioned chair to the far end, opposite the high seat left vacant for the king. Cersei sat to his left in robes of Myrish lace, her smile brittle as cracked amber. Littlefinger lounged to his right, neat beard trimmed, green velvet doublet catching the torchlight in subtle whorls. Lord Commander Meryn Trant stood behind the queen, dull-eyed in his new-forged lordship, one hand resting on gilded scabbard. The seats for Varys and Pycelle stood empty. "We begin without them," Cersei declared. "The realm's business waits on no eunuch's vanity or feeble Grand Maester." She flicked her fingers, signaling Trant to pour. "Wine, brothers?" Tyrion lifted his cup. "Never too early for Arbor Red. Shall we toast to King Joffrey's continued wisdom?" "Dai." Littlefinger smirked. "To wisdom, then. Gods know we lack for it elsewhere." Cersei ignored the jibe. "We have reports of riot brewing in Cobbler's Square. The gold cloaks dispersed one gathering last night, yet more flocked to the Baker Guild banners. It seems grain prices climb again." "Everything climbs," Tyrion said. "Except sagging morale." "A matter for the City Watch," Petyr Baelish offered. "Sir Jacelyn Bywater remains capable. With more coin, he can triple patrols along the Street of Flower." "Then? And where will that coin come from?" Cersei's gaze cut toward Littlefinger like a dagger. "We mint silver fast as Taroshi can shave it." "Treason to doubt the master of coin's coffers," Tyrion murmured. "Why, he grows dragons on trees, I hear." Littlefinger spread his hands. "We may sell crown lands near Maidenpool. Sir Kevin's stepped cousins hold leases that might be reconsidered." Cersei's nostrils flared. "Lannister lands will not line the realm's begging bowl." "Oh, never that," Baelish said, all mocking grace. "One might instead sell the king's needle to the faith in exchange for indulgences of gold." Tyrion sipped wine and let their quarrel grow. Words were arrows. Let them bloody one another. Varys slid into the room while voices climbed. He bowed with delicate sorrow. "My lords, my lady. Forgive my lateness." Cersei rounded on him. "Ain yourself. I was detained by unsettling tidings." The eunuch's hands floated like doves. "Grand Maester Pycelle has been found unresponsive in his chambers. A fever seized him in the night. Maester Franken fears his condition most grave." "Then? Graver than phlegm?" Tyrion asked, feigning mild surprise. Varys inclined his head. "Alas, yes. My little bird saw the old man carried to the infirmary moments ago." A silence settled over the council. Cersei's fingers drummed the weirwood. "If Pycelle dies, who will serve?" "Not you," Tyrion said. "The Citadel must approve the crown's nominee." She shot him a look sharp as broken glass. "We shall cross that bridge when we must. For now, the meeting continues." So it did. Though Tyrion noted how eyes drifted toward Pycelle's vacant chair. An empty seat can haunt a room like a ghost. Its absence suggested other absences yet to come. He found himself remembering Bronn's jest about ghosts in the keep, and wondered whose face the next ghost would wear. Within the hour, bells tolled from the maester's turret. A dull, relentless clang rolling across rooftops and echoing down alleys too narrow for sun. Word of Pycelle's passing passed quick as plague through kitchens and stables. In the great hall, squires whispered to knights, and knights to pages, and pages to every lamp-bearer and kennel-boy in earshot. The old balm seller by the mud-gate heard before midday, though she had never learned the names of half the seven. The assassin heard as he knelt by the scullery hearth, scrubbing a copper pot slick with goose grease. The sister scouring opposite him clucked her tongue. "Poor Grand Maester. Saw him only yesterday. Said the gods give fever to humble a man." "Then humble he is," the assassin replied, voice plain and flat. The girl was plump, freckled, kind of face. She smiled sadly. "Seems no one is spared when the stranger calls." "No one," he agreed. He rose, dried his hands, and drifted from the scullery, leaving behind the pot still streaked with grease. One corridor bled into another until he came to a narrow servant's stair twisting up the belly of the Tower of the Hand. The steps were steep, torchlit, and smelled of cold stone. He ascended without haste, passing 3 footmen burdened with baskets of rushes. None spared him a glance. At the landing above, he slipped through a side door, emerging in a hallway paneled with dark oak. A pair of gilt lions flanked the threshold to Tyrion's solar, but the dwarf remained in council. Another door further on led to a quaint reading den, seldom used save by the hand squire. The assassin ducked inside. Scrolls lay strewn across a trestle table. Podrick Payne lacked talent for neatness. The assassin paid them no mind. He crossed to the shuttered window, unhooked a pewter censer from a wall niche, and opened its hinged belly. A residue of incense clung to the bowl. Amber, sandalwood, and astringent myrrh. With a fingertip he lifted a smudge. Sniffed. Strong enough. From a leather pouch hidden by his belt, he produced a pinch of powder, the hue of river silt. He sprinkled it into the censer, replaced the lattice lid, and left it hanging. In an hour, the warm air would quicken the dust, and anyone who breathed the fragrant smoke long enough would drift into sleep deep as the blackest sea. He closed the shutters, trapping the air. Then he turned to the door, timing his departure to the beat of distant bells. Soon the Hand would return to these rooms, craving respite from courtly bards. He would lie upon his pillows, perhaps with a flagon at his elbow, and dream dwarf dreams while the assassin slipped in to see him. But not yet. A story must unfold at proper pace. The council must learn to fear the empty chairs, one by one. The dwarf's hour would come later, when his cunning mattered most. For now there was the Queen Regent and her pet knight, and the Master of Coin fattened by secrets. 3 faces more, each ode to the many-faced god. Petyr Baelish strode through the lower bailey with 2 purses at his hip, and a canary on his shoulder. The bird, a sleek storm canary from the shores of Lies, preened golden feathers while Littlefinger addressed a pair of Braavosi bankers. They had come to haggle over debts wrung from the crown during Robert's tourneys. Petyr's smile dazzled. Coins clinked. Ink dried. The canary chirped sweetly, lending the scene a quaint air of polite leisure that belied the river of gold changing hands. When the bankers bowed farewell, Baelish lifted the canary and pressed a light kiss to its beak. "Sing of profit, my love," he murmured, "and sing of fools who pay it." A kennel boy brushed past, carrying a bucket and a length of soiled chain. The stink of wet dog followed him like a curse. Littlefinger wrinkled his nose. "Mind your step, lad." The boy mumbled an apology in gutter Valyrian and scuttled on. Had Petyr glanced back, he might have noticed how the boy's gait straightened once past the ward, how his shoulders squared and his eyes grew bright and cold. He might have marked the boy discarding bucket and chain behind a stack of hay bales and vanishing into the winding archway that led below Maegor's holdfast. But Petyr Baelish seldom looked back. He looked ahead, to gold, to titles, to the Iron Throne itself spinning in his mind's eye like a coin upon a table. Above, clouds gathered purple. The canary sang. Joffrey Baratheon sat the throne that afternoon and demanded a new song penned praising the valor he showed at the Mudgate. None dared remind him he had shown no valor that day, only petulance. He grew bored before sundown and ordered Sir Meryn Trant to fetch him a dwarf for sport. Trant found none to hand. Tyrion was closeted with his hill tribes, and the mannequin juggler who haunted Duskendale Square had stolen south. The king cursed Trant's incompetence and commanded his hounds be set upon a goose instead. Such amusements kept the court occupied while thunder grumbled over Blackwater Bay. Night descended wearing a crown of lightning. In Maegor's holdfast, candles guttered as gusts prowled shutter cracks. Cersei dismissed her handmaids after the 7th hour, craving solitude and strong wine. She sank into a cushioned window seat in her private solar, staring at a parchment bearing the sigil of House Tyrell. A fortnight passed. Margaery's grandmother had written praising the king and hinting at rose-scented alliances. Cersei read the lines again, hunting for blades hidden in the bloom. A wind sighed through the flue. She shivered and reached for her goblet. The wine tasted of sour plums. She spat a curse. "Pour me another," she called. No answer. Where had that fool of a maid gone? She rose. Rain lashed the shutters. The candles burned low, their flames bending like supplicants. The silence felt thick, unnatural. Cersei wrapped her mantle tighter and crossed to the door that opened on her bedchamber. It stood ajar, though she remembered closing it. "Who walks there?" she demanded. "Sir Meryn," only echo replied. She pushed the door wide. Her chamber glowed with a dull light. The banked hearth embers, perhaps, or moonlight slipping through storm clouds. It cast long shadows that crept and twisted like dark vines over the floorboards. A strain of song drifted on the wind. Faint, lilting. No, not a song. A whisper. Words in a tongue she almost recognized. Valar Morghulis. Something moved behind the bed-deep curtains. Cersei's breath caught. She reached for a bell pull. A hand closed around her wrist before she could tug it. Cold fingers, iron strong, yet delicate as a woman's. Cersei tried to scream. The hand clamped over her mouth, guiding her backward with terrible gentleness. "I know your fear." A voice breathed against her ear, soft as a lover's murmur. "I tasted it when your father died in your womb. I tasted it when Robert's breath left him. I taste it now, sweet as arbor gold." Cersei thrashed. Nails raked the stranger's arm, found leather, then warm skin. The stranger did not flinch. Instead, he drew her closer, nose brushing her golden hair. "The many-faced god has no need of queens," he whispered. "He keeps only masks." Lightning flared, white and blinding, and she saw his face. No, saw faces arrayed like cards in a flick of a wrist. A Bravo-C Bravo, an old-town novice, a pale girl with irisless eyes, a kindly old man, her own brother Jaime smiling sad and crooked. Each face slid across the next, settling at last upon one she did not know. Serene, colorless, neither handsome nor plain, its eyes the hue of riverstones. Jaqen H'ghar pressed 2 fingers to the hollow at Cersei's throat. Her scream died unborn. The world toppled sideways. She felt herself lowered to the carpet, head resting upon a folded cloak that smelled of pine. Her gaze fixed on the hearth where orange embers pulsed like dying hearts. The stranger knelt beside her, watching until her lids drooped heavy as lead. When her breathing slowed, he stood, drew a small stopper from his belt, and sprinkled a gray powder into the goblet. The wine blackened. He placed the cup in her slack hand, arranged her robe to hide the bruises on her wrists, and brushed a curl from her brow in a tender gesture that might have belonged to a mother easing a child into sleep. Then he vanished into the storm. Tyrion dreamed of drums pounding beneath the world. They beat a doom beat, louder, faster, until the earth cracked and pale hands reached up to drag him down. He woke choking on smoke. Moonlight rimed the shutters of his bedchamber. Silver motes drifted in the air, and every breath tasted of burnt resin and rot. His head swam. He tried to sit, but his limbs were water. Somewhere a door clicked. Footfalls. Soft, deliberate. He groped for a dagger on the bedside table. His fingers closed on empty wood. "Who?" he croaked. A silhouette coalesced beyond the bed hangings. Tall, spare robes shifting like shadow. "One good man asks too many questions," the silhouette said. Voice lilting, strangely musical. "Another asks too few. Which are you, little lion?" "And he depends on the wine." Tyrion coughed, eyes watering. "Show yourself." Soon, the stranger approached. Tyrion made out a thin face, neither young nor old, features blurred as if carved from mist. A ghost? No. Ghosts did not smell of cedar and myrrh. "You taste smoke," the stranger whispered. "That smoke cloaks the blade. A game begins, and you will play whether you know the rules or not." Cloth rustled. Something cold pressed against Tyrion's throat. A coin? A disc of steel. He tried to bat it away, but his arm weighed 100 stone. "Hold," the stranger said, laying his palm on Tyrion's brow. "No need for fear. The lion still has a part to roar." The coldness lifted. Air rushed into Tyrion's lungs. He coughed, spat, blinked tears. When his vision cleared, the chamber was empty, save for drifting motes and the faint scent of incense. On his pillow sat a silver coin no bigger than his thumb, etched with a face half smiling, half weeping. He knew the coin. Once he had taken it from a ragged girl outside the river gate, trading empty promises for passage to the wall. That girl had called herself Jaqen H'ghar. Tyrion closed his fist around the coin. It felt heavy as debt. By dawn, 3 corpses cooled in the bowels of the keep. Pycelle dead in his bed. Sir Meryn Trant, throat opened like a second smile in the hallway outside the Queen Regent's chambers, and Queen Cersei herself, sprawled on a velvet carpet, wine spilled across her bosom. The guards who found her swore the cup still steamed. King Joffrey howled like a wounded hound. His shrieks echoed through dead corridors, waking ravens on the roof and rats in the walls. The crown rattled on his brow as he clawed at silent maesters and demanded they wake his mother. When they failed, he turned his rage on the living. First on Tyrion, then on Varys, then on any servant who dared cross his line of sight. The small council met at sunrise, seats half vacant, air thick with terror. Joffrey's chair remained unoccupied. The boy king could not be pried from his mother's bier. Tyrion presided with eyes grimmed and haunted. Beside him Varys sat motionless, hands folded like a supplicant. Littlefinger arrived late, clothes disheveled, as if dragged from bed by unseen hands. When he saw the empty queen's chair he stumbled, caught himself, and smoothed his doublet with trembling fingers. "Who?" he whispered, so soft only Tyrion heard. "That is the question," Tyrion replied, "and the answer cuts throats in the dark." Rain hammered the keep for 3 days. Fires guttered, bread burned. Men whispered of curses laid upon the Iron Throne. Small folk spoke of a faceless shadow that walked the passages, selecting victims the way a butcher selects lambs. Some prayed to the warrior, others to the crone or the stranger, most to any god who would lend an ear. The guild of Rotga catchers refused to enter Maegor's holdfast. Half the Red Keep scullions fled in the night. In a lone cell of black stone, the assassin washed blood from a borrowed cloak. The water in the basin shimmered red, then ran clear. He dried the cloth upon a hook, donned a fresh face, and rehearsed a new smile in a shard of mirror. The game was half played, but the greatest pieces yet stood: the mockingbird who would be king of cinders, and the lion cub howling on a bier of tears. The many-faced god desired them both. He tucked the mirror shard in a pouch, drew up his hood, and left the cell behind. The rain wept upon the rooftops as he walked, but tears could not cleanse what came next. A storm was only a mask for thunder. The thunder itself was yet to break. End of part of ends. Ah, Kandi. Rain gave way to a pearl dawn, soft as a bruised peach, but the red keep looked no gentler for the washing. Slate roofs dripped like open veins, dark water tracing the crenels where crossbowmen now stood two abreast. Night's terror had bred day's paranoia. Every third torch sconce flared, every portcullis rattled down, and every face in livery bore a hunted look, as though the castle itself had become a mousetrap, and none could say who played cat. Tyrion Lannister watched the bustle from atop the rampart walk above the dry moat, cloak drawn tight against the last spits of drizzle. The still warm coin of Bravos weighed his purse like a lodestone. On some level he felt honored. The faceless men were choosy employers. Honored and afraid. Juff's scream still rang in his skull, a tin whistle shriek that set teeth on edge. With Cersei gone, the realm should have felt lighter on his shoulders. Instead it crushed him flat. Madness loomed. Joffrey's first, then the city's. Somewhere in Flea Bottom, a baker would run out of crusts, and 1,000 starving throats would decide the lion's share no longer belonged to lions. Podrick coughed behind him. "And my lord? The pyre's ready?" "Of course it is." Tyrion knuckled rain from his brow. "If we wait long enough, we can burn my sister and the city in a single blaze." Podrick had no answer. He fidgeted, gaze fixed on the yard where Cersei's bier rested beneath a purple canopy. The cloth snapped, belly swollen with wind that smelled of pitch. High Septon Lucian waited beside the bier, hands clasped, eyes lifted to a slate sky as though seeking pardon for the sins of all queens in one supplication. Another canopy held Pycelle's corpse. A third, Sir Meryn's. Jackals in silk and sable formed discreet lines. Minor lords here for spectacle, not sorrow. Across that yard Joffrey paced in gilded plate, helm under arm, face blotched from tears he thought no one had seen. Only Tyrion had. Brothers could not help but spy on brothers, even when one stood half a man tall. Tyrion wished he had not. A sobbing king is a riddle the realm solves with daggers. And daggers already walked these halls. Lord Petyr Baelish broke his fast on a plate of quail's eggs cooled in rosewater. He popped each into his mouth in measured intervals, dabbing yolk from his beard with a silk square bordered crimson. Across the table his guests stared at the eggs as though they might hatch knives. "Charming," said Olenna Tyrell, eyeing the canary preening on Littlefinger's shoulder. "Next you'll swallow songbirds whole and regurgitate them into coin. Only if the coin sings back." Petyr set the shell dish aside. "You came at dawn, my lady. To what do I owe such early blooming interest?" Olenna propped her cane, leaned forward. "To corpses, Lord Baelish. One cannot grow roses in poisoned ground. King's Landing is turning septic. I'd call it fertile. Out of rot, new ventures bud. Benda. A gardener prunes rot." Her eyes were points of steel. "Prunes deep. The reach will not yoke its future to a corpse king or too many missing counselors." "See it mended, Petyr." He flashed the smile men mistook for warmth. "When the small council reconvenes this afternoon, you'll see a man with shears in hand. Trust me." "Oh, I never trust men with shears," she said, rising. "But I watch where they clip." Her escort guided her away, skirts whispering threats. Littlefinger stroked the canary's back. "Hear that, my sweet? Pruning. Wah." The bird tilted its head, glassy eyes reflecting twin torches. "Perhaps we clip elsewhere first." A knock came. Lothar Brune stuck in his scarred face. "My lord, the gold cloaks double the watch on the river gate." "Also, Someone filched 3 suits of mail from the armory. 3. Petir considered. Dull color, average weight? No one will miss them long. Littlefinger brushed a crumb from his cuff. Still, have Bywater's men search every potboy and poultry girl. Thieves breed courage when rumor breeds fear. My lord. Brune withdrew. Littlefinger's fingers tensed on the canary's breast. Its heart fluttered against his thumb, quick as a sparrow's. A man might crush such a thing without thought. Power, in miniature. But Petir only smiled. Set the bird on its perch and whispered, "Watch for cats." Jaqen H'ghar wore a different skin by midday, plump jowls, sallow cheeks, a wine-purple birthmark at the temple, sweeping mustache, stained umber black. The face belonged to Sir Wylis Manderley, distant cousin to the Northmen who seldom visited court. The real Willis had died of sweet winter sleep on a Bravo Sea galley 2 months past. Corpses were fonts of convenience. He passed through 4 cordons. Gold cloaks at the iron gate, red cloaks at Mager's twisting stairs, and 2 silent sorrowful men kneeling outside the septa, hired by Varys for the funeral vigil, though even the spider did not know their loyalty belonged now to the many-faced god. At each cordon, he issued the correct word, or coin, or nod. Men faced him squarely, judged him, and let him through. Faces lie. Confidence tells truths. In the sept, the air smelled of myrrh, smoke, and overripe lilies. Joffrey knelt on a velvet cushion before his mother's shrouded form, candles guttering at his heels. Jaqen glided down a line of pillars, cloak brushing flagstones. Music thrummed from high arches, a mournful viol, a muted drum, low men's voices chanting the maiden's lament. Moat lights flickered in Joffrey's teardrops. Jaqen stopped 5 steps behind the king, bowed, and sank to one knee. "Your Grace." Joffrey stiffened. "Who addresses me?" "A humble knight of White Harbor. Your mother's champion and spirit." The voice bore Manderley's rumble, thick as cream. Jaqen never used the same tone twice. The boy rose, cheeks blotched, crown askew. "Did Lord Wyman send you?" "Even from afar his heart grieves." Joffrey wiped eyes on his sleeve. "All hearts grieve, yet none feel as I do." He stared at the shroud, perhaps imagining golden hair beneath. She must ride to the rock for burial. No one listens. They say roads are unsafe. The roads are always unsafe, to the unprepared. Jaqen's hand slipped beneath his cloak. A slender vial rested there. Tears of lace tinted soot gray. 6 drops stopped a man's heart within the hour. For a child strung by grief. Half sufficed. But the many-faced god whispered, "Not yet." The council still had players. The game still needed chaos. The boy king must live long enough to feed the fire. Jaqen bowed deeper, withdrawing his hand empty. "If it please your grace, men of the north will carve a safe path. I myself swear on the merman's beard. When all is ready, I shall bear you word." Joffrey sniffed, shoulders easing. "See that you do." He turned back to the beer, lost again. Jaqen rose, melted into columns, and disappeared from the sept without ripple. Every kill required tempo. He was conductor of a silent symphony, and each heartbeat a drum. Tyrion's council convened in the Tower of the Hand at second bell. The dwarf sat at the head where the king should, because the king refused, and because someone had to. Tommen clutched a flagon of watered wine beside him, white-faced. The child had begged to stay. Tyrion let him. Better one Lannister cub in sight than somewhere a knife might find him. Varys drifted in, robes the color of mourning doves. Littlefinger followed, canary absent today, eyes rimmed sleepless. Sir Jacelyn Bywater stood in for the city watch, visor tucked under his arm, scarred mouth stern. Only 4. Tyrion rapped knuckles on weirwood. "We form a council of ghosts. First order. Naming Pycelle's successor. Suggestions?" Varys folded soft hands. "Maester Franken holds the chain at Dragonstone. Loyal, diligent. Loyal to Stannis once. Littlefinger said. Diligence is well enough until loyalty goes cheap. Bywater cleared his throat. Maester Balabar serves the watch. Knows the city. Tyrion snorted. Knows where to sell poppy to the highest bidder. Next. Rosby's Maester. The man who wrote love verses to a goat. Tyrion waved. Pass. Then who, my lord? Varys asked. Tyrion laced fingers. No? No one? A vacant chain affronts the citadel. Let them protest. Until they do, we have one less pair of ears to leak secrets. He drained wine. Second order. Grain. The royal granaries report 1 month's store at present pace. If riots ignite, we'll need thrice that. Littlefinger smiled thinly. Pay bravos. With what? Spoils of the coming victory. Pettyr's eyes glimmered. Ambition always did. Renly dead, Stannis stalled. Robb tied in knots. Our victory is mathematics. Mathematics changes when men starve. Tyrion stabbed the air with a quill. I will not feed figures to the mob. Then feed them faith, Petter said softly. Tell them this plague of shadows is heresy and Lannisters alone. Wield the light. Bywater glanced between them. Uneasy. Varys' eyelids fluttered. Tyrion tasted bile. Faith and fear, 2 blades in one hilt. Cersei had ruled by such, and see her now, plump for cinders. Yet perhaps a blade sometimes cuts the hand that swings it. He opened his mouth. Then froze. A noise whispered through the hall. Soft swish of fabric, no louder than a moth's wing, yet clear. Beside Littlefinger, the taper flame bobbed. Petter saw Tyrion stare, frowned. Something amuse you? A movement behind. Bywater jerked, face twisting. Blood bubbled from his mouth, black as ink. A quill protruded from his throat. No, not a quill, a narrow spike of silver 3 inches long. He toppled against the wall, eyes bulging, limbs thrashing. Varys shrieked, a sound like a gelded goat. Tommen clutched Tyrion's arm, nails digging. Tyrion upended the chair, dragging the boy behind the table. Guards, he bellowed, voice echoing along corridors. Littlefinger staggered up, hand flying to his belt for the dagger he seldom used. But already a second silver spike jutted between his fingers. He gasped, pupils dilating. His dagger clattered. He swayed, tried to speak. Blood spattered weirwood, bright arterial dots. He crumpled across the carved veins, staining them redder. Silence, except for Tommen's sobs and Varys' ragged breath. Footsteps pounded. Bronze-armored men charged in, blades drawn. They found Tyrion shielding the boy, Bywater quivering on the floor, Littlefinger face down, and Varys pressed against the wall, trembling. No assassin. Tyrion's mind raced. Air currents, exit lines, vantage. One arrow slanted from rafters. No arrow, no trajectory. Quills? Throw spikes gleaming silver, Bravosi style. The thought chilled him. He rose slowly. Seal the keep, he ordered the captain. No one in or out without my mark. Every servant musters in the yard. Search them. Strip them if you must. Anyone resists, a cell. Bah. And if they can change faces, Varys whispered. Tyrion ignored him. Send 3 men to Lord Baelish's apartments, retrieve the royal ledgers, deliver to the Tower of the Hand, then fetch Maester Balabar, goat verses or no. See to Lord Baelish and Bywater if breath remains. The captain saluted, barking orders. Men rushed. Littlefinger did breathe. Faint, wet rasps, foam, on lips. Balabar staunched the wound, but the spike had pierced lung. He might linger hours, a day. Time enough to talk if tongues still wagged. Tyrion watched healers work, mind spiraling. 2 counselors slain within heartbeats. Quills from nowhere. A faceless man? But Jaqen had spared him. Why? Debt? Or design? Leave the dwarf for last as linchpin of chaos. If Tyrion fell, Joff lost his only reign. City would explode. Someone wanted that. Someone? or something. The many-faced god cared little for crowns. Only death broke all chains. Night cloaked the city again, heavy as a bear's hide. Sentries burned braziers at every gate. Smoke curled into the dark like anxious prayers. In the Tower of the Hand, Tyrion sat beside Littlefinger's bed, sniffing a vial. Milk of the poppy, heavy dose. Baelish dozed fitfully, lips pale. Tyrion tapped the cot rail. Wake, Littlefinger. Coins to count, secrets to spill. A groan. Pedder's eyes cracked open. Pain creased his brow. He tried to speak. Blood dribbled. Tyrion tilted a cup to his mouth. Sip. Maester says lungs filling. Pedder sipped. Swallowed, wheezed. How? He rasped. Tyrion hoped you might tell him. Baelish laughed. A ghost of sound. Saw. Nothing. Felt sting. Fool's end. A cough shook him. Red flecks on his chin. Listen. Ledger. Isle of Liss. Gold for sales. Offer them to Tyrells, not pay. Promise. Crown to Margaery. A storm of roses, covers. Another cough. His eyes dimmed. I climbed. Too high. Tyrion leaned close. Who paid the faceless man? Pedder's lips twitched. Who says? 1 coin. Pays. He seemed to smile, then sighed, and sagged. Breath stopped. Tyrion closed the man's eyes. Chaos is a ladder, he murmured. You fell off. He straightened, heart hammering. No confession. No hint certain. Yet his gut screamed that Baelish himself had started some wheel turning, a plot to displace Lannisters with Tyrell coin, torn now by the very shadow he'd loosed. Meaning? He rubbed temples. Meaning the assassin hunted on no one's leash, or many leashes frayed at once. Podrick entered. Message, my lord. A folded square, unsealed. Tyrion opened. Ballard Dohaeris. Beneath, a single line. At moon's zenith, the boy king sleeps not. Tyrion's blood went ice. Get Ser Balon Swan. Now. Podrick flew. Tyrion hurried to his desk, seized ink, quill. Words spilled. Move king to Maegor's vault. Triple guard. Crossbows drawn. Seal. Stamp. Swan arrived helmed, breastplate gleaming. My lord. Tyrion, thrust, letter. Take 4 men you trust. Drag the king to the vault under the throne room. The one with Valyrian doors. Do not tell him why. Do not let him out till dawn. Swan frowned. Hell rage. Let him. That vault once held wildfire. It can hold a tantrum. Tyrion filled a purse with silver stags. Bribe maids, bribe rats. I care not. See him safe. Go. When Swan left, Tyrion sagged into the chair, wiped sweat. Jaqen's note could be taunt or warning. Either way he must act. If Joff fell tonight, Stannis would need only sail upriver to claim a corpse of a crown. The city would tear itself for favor. He poured wine. The cup trembled. 7 save us, he whispered. Though he trusted them as much as he trusted a sellsword's vow. Jaqen crouched atop the Hall of Lamps, highest roof of the Red Keep, where glass orbs glowed green within iron spines. Wind whipped purple cloak round shoulders leaner now. Face younger? A Taroshi sellsail sporting striped mustaches. Below, windows twinkled. Men scurried ant-like. Joffrey's escort marched across a bridge of red stone, lanterns bobbing. They turned toward the throne room, not the royal apartments. A smile curved Jaqen's borrowed mouth. The little lion scurries. Good. Death hunts best when quarry tires. He slid down a waterspout, landed cat-silent on a walled gallery, and slipped through a servant's hatch into dark passages used by rat-catchers. Cobwebs clung like veils. He brushed them aside. At a junction he knelt, palms flat, feeling vibrations through stone. Steps above. 6 men armored. The king headed to the vault indeed. But the vault's doors weighed 2,000 stone of black iron. Even a faceless man might balk at such metal. Another path then. The many-faced god seldom cared how, only when beat like a pulse in his ear. He withdrew a wooden mask of smooth cedar, blank but for narrow eye slits, and set it over his features. The Taroshi's stripes vanished beneath white anonymity. He became no one. Rising, he padded deeper into the belly of Maegor's holdfast, where myth said Balerian's flames had once cooked stone molten. Heat lingered ancestral, sweat beaded his brow. He followed smell of oil, the hush of still water, until a tunnel widened on an undervault hewn of basalt. Fireflies of torchlight danced across walls, etched with Valyrian glyphs. And there, the doors. Each slab as high as 3 men, forged of black metal shot through with red swirls like frozen embers. Only dragonbone keys opened them, and those were said lost. Joffrey's guards had dragged him inside already. Proof lay in scuff marks, in a single dropped glove near threshold. Outside, 8 Kingsguard now bristled, plate white as purified bone. Ser Balon swan among them, helm crested by pale wings. An impossible wall. Yet where walls rose, shadows pooled. Jaqen melted behind a buttress, noted the pattern. 4 guards paced, 4 stood. Their torches cast jeering halos. Smoke twisted upward to a vent lost in gloom. He traced its line, gauged angle. A chimney, narrow, slick but passable when Bones remembered childhood's flexibility. One guard paused to adjust a strap. Swan muttered orders. They feared. Fear blurred eyes, dulled edges. Jaqen retreated into blackness, climbed a rusted ladder unseen, ascended through narrow vent shafts until moonlight silvered iron rungs. He emerged on a roof dotted by bat sculptures, breath steaming. From a satchel, he withdrew a small glazed bottle, crisscrossed in twine. Inside hissed pale liquid that ate iron like maggots eat meat. He pried the cork, tipped 5 drops onto a stiletto slender as a needle. The steel hissed softly. Then the blade drank. Back to the vent. He slid feet first, bracing elbows, worming downward slow as evening drizzle on glass. Torch smoke stung eyes. He blinked, stilled breaths. Voices echoed. Men telling jokes to kill dread. Below, a guard leaned against the wall directly under the vent, visor up. Sweat glazed his cheek. Jaqen hung, inverted, blade in hand. By daughter. 1 heartbeat. 2 ow. The guard yawned. Jaqen struck. A whisper of steel. A blossom of blood as blade pierced throat soft as custard. He withdrew, grabbed the dying man's collar, eased him to floor soundless. Another guard turned, puzzled by motion. Jaqen dropped behind him, looped garrote wire, tugged. Crunch of cartilage, body spasmed. 2 down. Swan saw movement too late. He spun, sword half drawn. Shadows, he barked. Jaqen flung the stilet. Blade kissed Swan's pauldron. Skipped. Nicked cheek. Swan lunged. Steel hissed. Jaqen ducked, rolled. Up with fallen spear. Thrust. Swan parried. Sparks. Another guard swung mace. Jaqen sidestepped, spear butt cracked knee. Guard bellowed, fell. Chaos. In its swirl Jaqen moved like smoke. Spear swirling, blade stolen, torch hurled to blind. He drove iron through Swan's gut. The knight gasped. Disbelief in eyes. Tried a final cut. Jaqen caught wrist, twisted. Blade clanged away. Valar Morghulis. Jaqen whispered. Swan choked blood. And yet, not tonight, he breathed, collapsing. Doors loomed. Keys none. Yet the dead yield answers. Swan's pouch. Held a chunk of obsidian carved with snarling lion. Tyrion's sigil, a master key from the hand. Jaqen pressed it to a socket between doors. Runes flared faint red. Gears groaned deep. Metal yawned, revealing black beyond. Inside, wildfire vats long removed left smell of ancient char. Torches guttered in wall hooks. At the far end, Joffrey paced before a dais of cracked marble. A short sword in hand, crown crooked. Alone, he whirled as Jaqen approached, eyes wild. What treachery is this? Swan. His voice cracked. Jaqen closed the door, iron grinding final. In darkness, only two flames framed them. The cedar mask hid all. He drew no blade. Monster. Show your face. Joff stabbed at air. Jaqen advanced, each step measured. Ace is a lie, he said. Pitch a hollow echo in vault. A lie you wore when you ordered bastards butchered, when you cowered at the mud gate, when you struck Sansa Stark. I am the king. Joff swung. Blade rang off mask. Sparked. Pain stung Jaqen's brow, but he did not flinch. He caught the boy's wrist in steel grip. Joff shrieked. Jaqen wrenched sword free, tossed it aside, and pressed thumb to the hollow beneath the ear. Just so. Nerves surged. The boy convulsed, knees buckling. Jaqen guided the fall like a dancer leading limp partner. He knelt, cradled royal head on his lap. Joff's pupils dilated, throat fluttering. Fear reeked. Jaqen hummed a Braavosi lullaby. Why me? The boy gasped. Because every song needs silence at the last note. Blade. Thin as reed, coated in manticore venom, slipped between ribs, found heart. One jerk, then still. Jaqen closed lids gently. Outside, the many-faced god sighed approval in the hush. Dawn's light bled purple when Tyrion stood before the doors, 50 gold cloaks at his back. Swan and men found slain. Reports came like stones in the night. Now his brother Jaime, recalled from River Run siege, awaited just inside, sword drawn. Balabar whimpered behind him. King's guards dead. Vault breached. Open, Tyrion ordered. It took 4 men with winches. Doors creaked, parted. The vault stank of copper and oil. Joffrey sprawled on marble, crown rolled to a corner. On walls, Joff's blood sprayed gold veins. Tyrion's shoulders sagged. A nephew lost. A realm lost? He pressed palm to eyes, felt tears he had no time for. Tommen must be crowned. The city calmed. The Tyrells wooed. So many fires and no water. And above all, a demon in faces yet slew. He strode to corpse, noting, no guard blood among gore. Someone cleaned, but the mask remained near Joff's hand. Cedar, blank. Tyrion lifted it. On inner rim, a sigil burned faint red, a coin with a laughing face. Varys whispered, he leaves signatures now. No. Tyrion felt chill. He leaves messages. He turned mask, traced fingertip over grain. A tiny nick formed shape of a lion, crossed by an X. A warning. Next lion falls. My lord? Varys asked. Tyrion slipped mask in sleeve. Summon every alchemist. Triple guards. Send ravens. Renly's murderers have come for us all. And fetch every sellsword in the city. Double pay. He breathed once, steadying. Oh, and tell Sansa Stark. Queen Sansa now. To dress Tommen in mourning black. He will need steel in his spine. I will supply the rest. Varys inclined head. And the faceless one? Tyrion's eyes glittered. We hunt ghosts with nets of gold. Every rumor, every whisper. He exhaled. And pray the next mask he wears has room for a dwarf's fist. In the black of the Blackwater, a Myrish skiff slipped seaward before sunrise. Aboard, the helmsman hummed a lullaby, steering through fog. His face was that of a meek septon, round and unremarkable. In his pocket lay 3 coins, gold, silver, and copper. Each bore a different face, each had bought a death. He needed one more, but coins are easily found in a city where crowns tumble. Behind, distant bells began to ring. He smiled softly. A girl on deck, thin, barefoot, eyes bright, asked, "Milord, heading to Bravos?" "A man heads where the currents lead," he answered. She nodded, trusting. He handed her a coin of iron and told her to keep it always. She thanked him, pocketed promise and curse alike. The skiff glided east, toward brightening horizon. Above, gulls wheeled, crying news only the sea understood. In King's Landing, chaos bloomed. In Bravos, a red door awaited, and somewhere, the many-faced god closed 4 more ledgers, ink still wet. But there remained one ledger yet unsigned, the dwarf hand, who balanced blades with words. Jaqen H'ghar would return. All men must die, and some must wait their turn, even when death himself grows impatient in a city gone mad. The skiff's sail filled. Tide carried no one away. The bells of capital tolled on.